Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
And every story I read on every website, they all said exactly the same thing. You can go back. It was a Wire story. You can go back and read it. He's wearing this $250,000 watch, yada, 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 yada. On Tuesday, somehow, it's still news. But somehow, in every story I read on Tuesday, the value of the watch has now somehow changed to $190,000 when it was $250,000.
Someone checked. Someone is fact checking.
I don't understand this.
But this is what I don't understand. I don't care if the watch is $200,000. I don't care if the watch is $1 million. I don't care if the watch is $2. Even if it's a $5 watch from the drugstore, why are you wearing it while you're playing?
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, baseball pitchers,
football coaches,
and basketball players.
But first, what's bugging Josh?
Okay, Skip, I haven't spoken to you in a very long time because you have been traveling, gallivanting overseas, whatever you've been doing. And unfortunately, you missed a lot of stuff while you were away, and a lot of it aggravated me.
I'm so out of the loop. It's incredible. I was in Barcelona for a week. I was just following loosely what was going on, you know, in all the sports. And it's such an incredible time because October, right? All the sports are converging now. And I barely followed what happened in the NFL last week, except for the Eagles, which I think we might get into. And baseball, I mean, thank God I came home just in time because, you know, there's 4 games on yesterday. So that was great. But yeah, I'm totally out of the loop. And you were texting me about all the things that were bothering you. So I can't wait to hear basically everything that went on this past week, you know, through your eyes.
I'm going to go back more than a week because there's some things that happened like 2 weeks ago and maybe even 3 weeks ago.
It's been a while since we recorded. Yeah.
Yes, that bothered me. So,
okay, so let's preface this. This is going to be like a huge What's Bugging Josh episode.
Yes.
You're kidding me? Boy, are you bugging me, man. I'm gonna nail. Ooh, I'm getting bugged now. Whoa, man.
We may even cut it up into 2 episodes.
Maybe.
Yeah,
But what's bugging me in general is football.
The National Football League.
Football.
So,
well, I mean, you saw the title of our last episode was unwatchable. The games are unwatchable, for the most part.
So, you know, before this season started, I told you, and I tell you this every year, I don't really watch that much football because, to be honest, on a Sunday afternoon, there are a million things I would rather do than sit in front of my television and watch football.
Okay.
However, because of circumstances, I've had no choice but to watch football. And I've watched more football in the first 4 weeks of this season than I have probably in the last 4 years combined.
Wow. Okay. Right.
And here's what I've noticed. 90% of teams, 90% of head coaches run the same exact plays over and over and over again.
It's 100% true.
And it is very frustrating. There are very few coaches, there are very few quarterbacks that are creative in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
There are very few that take any chances at all.
I listen to a lot of the Ringer podcasts, right? So they have the Ringer NFL podcast. And now I'm going to not be able to give credit to the exact person because I don't remember who said it. But it's one of those guys on the Ringer NFL. And he's saying all the coaches are wearing the same exact suit. And he's saying like their suit that they're wearing, they're all running the same plays, right? Mm-hmm. So you think that Sean McVay is this genius, right? Mm-hmm. This young genius, right? So the analogy is they're all wearing the same designer suit. They've all got on this Calvin Klein suit. It's gorgeous, right? All the coaches are wearing the same exact suit. What does Sean McVay do? He's got a pocket square. That's the difference. That's all he brings different, you know? Some kind of little wrinkle, but they're all running the same thing. You know, they're all running the same thing.
So these are the 3 things that bother me the most about the NFL.
Let's hear it.
Not in any particular order.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these you've heard me talk about many times before.
Right.
So the first one is, so you've got the ball, you're on offense, and it's very late in the first half of the game. In fact, there might only be a minute left or less in the first half. And you're down by 3 or 6 or 9 or whatever. And you've got the ball at your own 40-yard line, and you have a timeout or 2 left, and you can run a few plays and maybe throw a Hail Mary and maybe score a fluke touchdown. Who knows? But what do? Instead, you take a knee, you let the clock run out, and you run into the locker room, and you're down by 3 or 6 or 9.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It doesn't make any sense to me why you wouldn't
The only
take a shot at the end zone.
Yeah, the only circumstance where I feel it's okay to take a knee, whether you're in the last 30 seconds of the half, is like if you're backed into your own, you're backed inside your 10, and you're being extra cautious because any kind of turnover there is going to screw you, you know? But other than that, you should go for it.
I mean, if you're at your own 30, your own 40, it's safe to take. It's safe to take a shot at the end zone.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So that's one thing that bugs me, and it seems like every team does that.
Well, like you said, they all do the same. They have the same playbook.
Now, there was one team that actually did run a play at the end of the half, the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is one of the teams I like because they don't follow the same playbook as the rest of the world.
Yeah.
They actually had a 14-point lead, and they called a timeout with 10 seconds left in the half so they could run one more play.
Right.
Now they ended up trying to kick a field goal instead of throwing a pass.
Right.
But at least they tried to run a play.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. The second thing that bothers me about the NFL, very often, if not all the time, when a team is like in the red zone, first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, whatever. And the defense is lined up because they know the offense is going to run the ball right down the middle, right? Yeah. So the defense has all their guys bunched up right in the middle. And of course, the offense goes right down the middle. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But think about this logically just for a minute. Forget about football just for a minute. If you were walking down the sidewalk and you saw a crowd of people all bunched up and you needed to get to the other side, would you not go to the left or the right instead of trying to plow through this huge crowd of people?
It's a good analysis.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me why they never try to do that, because the whole left side and the whole right side is wide open.
Right.
And don't tell me you can't hand the ball off to your fastest guy and he can't outrun their fastest guy and get into the corner of the end zone.
Right.
Anyway,
I hear you. I have nothing to say about that, but then other than that, I agree. But it's funny because football, they say football's evolved, right? It's the modern game and there's all this fancy coaching like we just talked about, right? But when they're lining up and that the situation you described, that's football from like the 1940s. Our fat guys are going to push your fat guys and we're going to see whose fat guys are fatter and that's going to win that 1 yard we need, right?
It's not very exciting.
No, it's what they used to, it's what they call it's what they call 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's this style, right?
Now, I'm going to commend Aaron Rodgers because in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles, which the Packers lost, Aaron Rodgers, I think, had 8 chances in the red zone late in the game, and they didn't run it once.
Well, because they have no faith in any of their they have no faith in any of their running backs. But you're commending him, but that plan didn't work because he didn't score on 8 tries inside the 5-yard line.
Okay, you're right, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But I commend him for the initiative. And it didn't work because of the execution didn't work out well.
Yes.
But I think the idea was the right idea.
Well, of course it's the right idea. The running backs are scrubs. And so why are you you want the ball in the hands of your best guy, right? Aaron Rodgers needs to have the ball in his hands.
And in fact, on at least 1 or 2 of those 8 occasions, none of them worked, but at least one of them for sure, and maybe even 2, the Packers tight end, Graham is his name, I think?
Yes.
He dropped a ball that he should have caught.
Yeah, he did.
And if he catches that ball, then we're not even having this conversation.
No, of course.
Because the Packers win that game.
Yeah, that's right. That was actually a really good game.
It actually was a good game, and it was very frustrating for me because I had picked the Packers in my pool, but whatever.
Right. I stayed up till it was 1:30 in the morning in Barcelona, and I was like, okay, if I can stay up for another hour, I could watch the beginning of the game, right? Mm-hmm. My buddy has this app that can get like games from anywhere, right? So I was going to watch on my phone. So I was like, if I could stay up for another hour, I'll be able to watch. So I did. And then I figured, okay, I'm just going to like fall asleep while I'm listening, right? That didn't happen. And then it's halftime. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll probably fall asleep at halftime while I'm just exhausted and waiting for the game to start. No. And then the next thing you know, it's 5:30 in the morning and the game's over. Not a smart move by me.
So speaking of the Eagles, I'm not sure if it was that Eagles game against the Packers or maybe the Eagles game the week before. But this goes back to what I just said a minute ago. The Eagles had the ball with 30 seconds left in the first half, and they didn't run a play. They just let the clock run out.
It was the week game before, and I was surprised that he did that because Peterson is a big gambler, right? It's not like him to do that. But I felt like the circumstances, I know what you're talking about. The circumstances of that was because everyone was injured. All the receivers were injured. They had no one to throw to anyways. So I think the thinking there was, let's just get to halftime. Let's regroup. We're in a big shitstorm right now. Everybody's injured. As soon as a guy steps on the field, he's injured. Let's just regroup, and in theory it worked. But you're right. They could have took their shot. Yeah.
Now, the third and final thing that bugs me about football, and this could be the one that bugs me the most. Every single play, doesn't matter which team has the ball, doesn't matter what yard line they're on. The play clock is it 35 seconds? How long is the play clock?
Whatever. I don't know. Yeah, 35 seconds.
It never fails that the team cannot snap the ball. They snap the ball with like 1 second left on the play clock. Or even better, they snap it with no time left on the play clock and they get a penalty.
Or a lot of times
you have 30 or 35 or even 40 seconds, I'm not sure how long it is, to snap the ball. It's really not that complicated. If you're a professional football player and you can't do this in 30 seconds, there is something wrong. I understand sometimes teams do it intentionally because they want the clock to run out, but I'm not talking about those instances. I'm talking about when they're trying to get a playoff and they're down and it's late in the game, snap the ball!
But I feel like the speakers inside the quarterback's helmet where he's getting the info from the coach, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like this has made things worse. That maybe it was better when they were getting signals. It was maybe more clear, right? Maybe what's coming in their ears is too much. I don't know. It would be interesting to hear exactly what goes on inside that helmet mic speaker. But speaking of snapping the ball, how do you like Aaron Rodgers coming to the line every single play and calling out 6 million weird plays and trying to draw the other team offside? It's like every single play he's trying to draw the team offside with loud barking signals and moving people around. It's kind of distracting actually as a viewer.
To be honest, I didn't notice that.
You didn't notice it? It was like crazy. Every play he's screaming and they're up at the line screaming, and he got a couple of offsides, which is what he's good at,
Anyway, just snap the ball. This is why a football game takes 3.5 hours. And there's maybe 30 minutes of actual playing time in that 3.5 hours.
So of all the things that bug you about the NFL, like the fact that there's 1 million replays on every single play, that doesn't bother you? I just find it unwatchable sometimes.
Sorry, thank you for reminding me. There is a fourth thing, and I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
There are so many flags. Every play, there's a flag.
There's a penalty.
Just let some stuff go. I don't want you to review every single thing. We're never going to get out of here. The game has to end at a certain point.
Right. And then just when you think they're letting stuff go, then they have to review stuff automatically. Every scoring play, every turnover, right? And now it's worse because every pass now, it used to be that the coach, okay, so every scoring play, every turnover, and any touch are reviewable automatically, right? Mm-hmm. The coaches don't have to throw that red flag for that. So the coaches previously could only throw their red flag for like specific things, right? The spot of the ball, catch, no catch. I forget all the lists, but like there's a subset of reviewable plays they can throw it on now. Now that subset of plays that they can throw the flag on has grown by 1 million because they can throw that review flag for every single pass, right? Every single pass is technically unchallenging for pass interference. Every single one. So there's no end. Like, thank God they're only allowed to throw that review flag a certain amount of times because They look at every single play now.
Insane.
I don't think they actually need the refs on the field. I think it should just be like every play should be reviewed and that's it. Let's just go there.
The games will never end.
The games will never end, but that's what we're heading towards, right?
So, one last note about football.
Yeah.
I actually watched a Montreal Alouettes game about a week ago.
Oh my God, we're going to the CFL. Amazing.
But I have to tell you, I know you're going to laugh at me. I actually prefer the Canadian game because they do things in the Canadian game that they would never do in the NFL. They take chances, they make stupid plays or crazy plays, and you never know what's going to happen.
Well, it's a wide open game, the CFL. That's how they marketed themselves all these years, right? Like the players in the CFL are not less skilled than the NFL. They're even more skilled sometimes. They're just not as big. Right? In most cases, they're just not as big.
Well, let me just tell you, the last 2 minutes of the Alouettes game against the Blue Bombers, it was a very exciting last 2 minutes.
That was nuts, right?
I don't know if you saw it or if you were in Europe at the time or what.
Yeah, no. It was before I left. It was like they scored at the very, very end, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that's all I've got on football. I'm going to move to baseball unless you want to add something.
No, football, I mean... Like I've been complaining about it since day one of this podcast. I've been telling you the NFL is not a great product. And I'm actually, the one thing that I wanted to mention is that, and we're doing it right now without even talking about it. We're actually doing what I wanted to talk to you about, which is we've been saying for the past few weeks, the NFL is going to keep us on schedule. The NFL is going to keep the podcast on schedule because we're always going to record Sunday night or Monday night, review the previous week's games. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't think the NFL should run our schedule. I think we should talk about whatever we want, and we don't have to make the NFL the focus of the show, which we have been. Right?
I agree with you. I don't want to do that either because
so
I just want to talk about what I want to talk about.
Yeah, so I think we're going to get away from making the NFL sort of the focus of the show, meaning the timing of when we record and everything like this, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
This is not an NFL show. This is not a football show. This isn't even a sports show. This is just a show for me to be able to vent. That's all it is.
That's it. That's perfect.
Major League Baseball.
All right, let's go to baseball because this is the glorious time of year. I mean, yesterday we had 4 games on. 4 games.
Okay, but before we even get to the playoff games in baseball, I gotta get a few things off my chest here.
Okay.
So there's things that bug me about baseball also. Okay. So you've seen this 100 times. Maybe you've seen it 1,000 times. First of all, before I even tell you, you know that pitchers in baseball, when they were younger, when they were like in high school or even younger.
Oh, we talked about this. They were all,
They were the best player on their team.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, when they get to the major leagues and they become a pitcher, it's like they're not allowed to do anything else.
First of all, they forget how to hit, but they're also not even allowed to catch a pop fly.
This is exactly what I was going to say. So listen to what happened.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know if you heard about this. This was like on the second to last day of the regular season.
Yeah.
Mike Minor of the Texas Rangers was pitching, I think it was the 8th inning. And at the time he had 199 strikeouts on the season. And there was a routine foul pop-up to the first baseman. And if the first baseman had caught it, the inning would have been over, and Minor probably wasn't going to pitch the next inning.
Okay.
So Minor yelled to his first baseman to let the ball drop because it was foul. Anyway, the first baseman let it drop. You could have caught it. I could have caught it. It was so routine. Next pitch, he strikes out the batter, gets his 200th strikeout.
Okay.
Of course, the opposing Boston Red Sox, they're not happy about this at all.
That's bullshit. Who cares if they're happy about it or not?
Anyway.
So you're not happy about it. Just don't strike out.
He gets his 200th strikeout.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I wasn't really cool with them doing that. I don't think it's right. I mean, if it was a tough play and you missed it, fine.
Yeah.
But this was really like the guy could have caught it in his sleep.
Yeah. Chasing stats is never a nice, good look.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's not exactly what I wanted to talk about, but I did want to mention this play that happened. Now, I don't know if this was the next day or 2 days later. This was the last day of the regular season. This happened.
Okay.
And I was watching this live as it happened. It was a game involving the Minnesota Twins, who are in the playoffs right now. there was a pop-up to the pitcher's mound. And I mean, sometimes when it's at the pitcher's mound, it's a little bit to the left, it's a little bit to the right.
Of course.
This was literally, if this ball had dropped, it would have landed on the dirt on the pitcher's mound.
Right.
The person that was the closest to this ball was the pitcher.
Of course.
Of course he was.
So the first baseman comes and calls him off? Or?
So what happens? The first baseman is coming in, the third baseman is coming in, and the shortstop is coming in.
Yeah.
3 guys are coming in. The pitcher, he runs towards second base because he wants to get out of the way.
Right.
So I don't know who called the ball, but the first baseman and the third baseman collided.
Jesus.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so now the third baseman actually got injured and had to leave the game.
It's so stupid.
And this team is actually going to the playoffs. It's not like this is their last game of the season and it doesn't matter.
Which team was this?
It was the Minnesota Twins.
Oh my God.
So, and I'm watching the play, and the truth of the matter is, so the pitcher should have just caught the ball and that would have been the end of it. Mm-hmm. However, since he moved out of the way and now it's between the first baseman and the third baseman, it was going to hit the first baseman in the glove. It was to the first base side of the mound. The third baseman had no business going over there. He caused the collision. He's the one who got injured. The guy's a complete idiot.
But the pitcher should have just caught it, right?
Exactly.
For once, I'd like the pitcher to just yell at everybody and say, I got it, so loud that everyone backs off.
Me too. I would love to see that.
Yeah. I don't know who started this business of the pitchers can't catch, are not allowed, supposed to catch balls. Like, I don't know where it started, but it's ridiculous, honestly. Let them catch it if it's hit right to them. Well, what do we care?
Completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's talk about the playoffs.
One more thing before the playoffs.
Yeah. Because
this doesn't bug me. This was a nice moment that happened, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. We didn't talk about it. Mike Yastrzemski's grandson, Carl Yastrzemski, plays for the San Francisco Giants, and he hit a home run at Fenway Park with his grandfather and family in the crowd. I thought that was pretty cool, and I just wanted to mention it.
Okay. Yeah, it was a cool moment.
So now we go to the playoffs.
Yeah. So you texted me on, I don't know what day it was, but whatever.
The day after Tuesday.
The day after the Nationals wild card game.
Oh my God.
Okay. And I'm going to read what you wrote to me. I'm so pissed off about yesterday's baseball game. We could do an entire episode just on that game.
And we're going to do it now.
So I'd like to know, like, look, I know you're not a Nationals fan. I know you're rooting against them, but like, what was so bad?
Okay. So going into the game, obviously I'm rooting heavily for the Brewers just because I hate the Nationals.
But I also like the Brewers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Brewers actually have the nicest, most creative logo in sports, possibly.
Look at you, logo police.
So I'm rooting heavily for the Brewers. And of course, you and I listen to the Tony Kornheiser show every day, and they love the Nationals. So this just feeds my anger even more because I want them to lose.
Yeah. Well, it's their city. They have a reason why they're rooting for the Nationals.
That's fine.
They're
DC
DC
they stole
people.
our team. I'm going to hate that team forever. But the big thing is that up until Tuesday, the Nationals had never won a playoff series ever.
Well, they still haven't.
No, they did because they won the wild card game.
Yeah, but that's not a series. That's a game.
It counts. It counts.
I know, but that's ridiculous. I mean,
it counts. So now that streak is over, and I'm very upset that streak is over.
Whatever.
So, but let me get to the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure enough, the game starts. First inning, Scherzer gives up a home run, which he seems to do in the first inning of every game he pitches.
He's not healthy. They can come out and say whatever. He's not the regular Max Scherzer that we know.
That's fine. Even a subpar Max Scherzer is a great pitcher.
Yeah.
But the point being, I was excited because the Brewers got off to a 2-0 lead and then a 3-0 lead. So this is the first thing that bugged me. I think in the third or fourth inning, Scherzer was still in the game, and I was hoping that Scherzer would stay in the game as long as possible because I knew eventually he was going to crack. Unfortunately, they took him out before he did. But at one point, the leadoff hitter hit a routine fly ball to Juan Soto, the left fielder, who totally blew it. He dropped
Butchered
it.
He
Completely
butchered it.
butchered it because he's not a good defensive outfielder.
Although he made a crazy catch last night.
So anyway, so now they've got a man on second with, I think, 1 out. And I'm saying to myself, okay, this run has to score because if this guy should never have gotten on base. So if he ends up scoring, it's going to be a backbreaker for the Nationals. It's going to be a backbreaker for the fans. The crowd is going to be silent. It's going to be beautiful. And the Brewers' 3-1 lead at the time was not a big enough lead. So unfortunately, they didn't capitalize. And that was the first thing that bugged me.
Yeah.
So then we go to the 8th inning. Oh my God, the 8th inning. Ah! Okay. So
But God, you're going crazy.
the Nationals bring in Michael A. Taylor to pinch hit to lead off the 8th inning. Now,
I like how you specify Michael A. Taylor.
well, that's his name.
I
Michael
know.
A. Taylor, just so you know, was in the minors a month ago.
Yeah.
This guy is terrible. He's a very fast runner. He's a good defensive outfielder. He cannot get on base if his life depended on it. The only way he can get on base is if he gets hit by a pitch.
Right.
And sure enough,
That's
he
what
got hit
happened.
by a pitch. However, this is the
Yeah.
thing that bugs me the most. I watched that game live, and I watched that replay 100 times. He was choking up on the bat. That ball hit his bat before it hit his wrist. In fact, I don't even know if it ever hit his wrist.
But
And
do you think, why didn't they try to challenge that?
I don't know if you can review that.
Okay.
Also, if you don't believe me, you can go watch the replay if you want. If you
Yeah,
don't
I'm
believe
going
me
to.
that it hit the bat first, and if you don't believe me that it hit only the bat, and therefore it's a foul ball and not a hit by pitch, just look at his reaction. He's not even grimacing in pain. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm getting on base for free. I'm dropping the bat. I'm running to first. He's like the happiest kid on the planet.
Right.
It's so obvious it didn't hit him in the wrist, because if it did, he'd
would
be
hurt
in a
like hell.
ton of pain.
Yeah. It's not like when the ball hits you on your thigh or your calf or your shoulder or your back. When it hits you on your hands, it hurts.
And I will say this, the next day on the Tony Kornheiser show, props or kudos or whatever you want to call it to Gary Braun, who actually did say, I think it hit the bat first and I don't think it hit his wrist. And
Right. Okay.
Gary Braun even said, and he's a Nationals fan, he even said, you could tell Michael A. Taylor didn't seem to be in too much pain as he walked to first base.
Right. So that was the first thing that started the snowball of,
So, I mean, the
comeback.
leadoff guy gets on base. He shouldn't be there already.
yeah.
The next guy is Ryan Zimmerman, who's 108 years old.
Yeah.
He hits a broken bat bloop single that drops like in shallowest center field.
Yeah.
The bat shattered in two.
Right.
And Michael A. Taylor's now on third. First and third. And I think they might have gotten out somewhere in between there. The next guy is Anthony Rendon. He walks. By the way, I forgot to mention, Josh Hader is in the game at this point. Josh Hader has been an all-star for the last 2 or 3 years. But for this particular inning, Josh Hader completely forgot how to pitch.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, did he? Because like the hit by pitch was a foul ball, and then he got Zimmerman to break his bat. So
Except
I mean, he's
that
not
of
pitching
the-
as bad as you think, right?
Of the 30 some odd pitches he threw that inning,
They were
half
ugly.
of them
Yes,
were balls.
he was struggling. He was struggling.
So anyway, Rendon walks. And of the 3 things that had happened, the hit by pitch, the bloop single, and the walk was the least annoying thing. The walk
Yeah.
was actually, I was happy that he walked him because Rendon can hit a 3-run homer.
Right. Then Soto hit a single.
Then Soto hits a single, which bad enough to begin with, which would have tied the game. But the right fielder, he completely boots the ball. And they take the lead. And that was it. I was crying. I was wanting to punch something.
But the thing that annoyed me about that game, and what I thought was the reason why you were so mad about it, was the reaction from all the Nationals people and DC and everything, as if they got this big monkey off their back. You know, by winning one game, the curse is over. You know, like, give me a break.
I was going to get to that because after it ended, I didn't want to watch the celebration.
Right.
But I stayed on it for a little bit and I noticed these guys are celebrating like they just won the World Series. And I'm thinking, this is a wild card game. I get it was exciting and it was dramatic and you came from behind.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's
their
not a
season
World
was on the
Series.
line, and their season was on the line, and they came through. I mean, with the help of the other team, but
Anyway, the only solace I can take is hoping that the Dodgers eliminate the Nationals. Now,
Well, it's going 5 games, and I like the Nationals' chances, to be honest.
well, the Dodgers were the best team in the National League. So
I know, but now the series is 1-1, right now.
it is.
And
1-1.
the Nationals seem to have this. Dave Martinez is no dummy.
Actually, he is, and I'll tell you why.
Because he's gonna use. Yeah, he put Scherzer in.
No, that's fine that he put Scherzer in.
Okay.
But like, here's the dumb thing that he did. The inning before he put Scherzer in, he had Scherzer warming up.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have Scherzer warming up and you're gonna use him, bring him in. Don't bring in Doolittle. Doolittle served up a homer.
Doolittle's the worst player on their team.
No,
he shouldn't even be pitching. He shouldn't even be pitching at all.
Doolittle is bad, but he's not the worst player because they have Wander Suero and Fernando Rodney. So only because of those two guys is Doolittle not the worst.
I can't even believe that Fernando Rodney is actually on their team. Honestly, come on.
Neither can I. It's
a joke, no?
It is a joke.
So what Dave Martinez does have right is he's gonna use Strasburg and Scherzer to the max.
Well, that's what he should do.
I know he's gonna have no choice. So I feel like you're gonna see Strasburg coming in relief. You're gonna see Scherzer coming in relief, which is what we already saw. Like he's gonna pull out all the stops, right?
They really only have 5 pitchers that they should be using the entire series.
Who are
Scherzer, Strasburg, Anibal Sanchez, who had a very good year, Patrick Corbin, and
Hudson.
Daniel Hudson. And that's it. They shouldn't even use any of the other guys if they're smart. But
look, it's gonna to me, it's gonna be an entertaining series. The Dodgers are great, but you know they had a chance last night to put the stranglehold with Kershaw on the mound, and once again, Kershaw just kind of came up short in the playoffs. Like he hasn't been good in his whole career in the playoffs, and the Nationals now tied up the series when they really could have been down, 0-2. So
now I'm not done with baseball.
I know. I hope not. I like to do a whole show on baseball. Continue.
So the other team that I loathe is the Atlanta Braves.
No, come on. They're not so bad.
Skip. It goes back to the 90s.
Look, I don't like the Braves as a franchise, and I'm definitely... Actually, I couldn't care less who wins that series. I don't like the Cardinals or the Braves. But, I mean, they do have exciting players, the Braves. Come on.
That's fine, but I hate the Braves, and I want them to lose every game. So...
Okay.
Game 1 of the Braves-Cardinals series.
Correct, yes.
Braves had the lead almost the entire game. Mm-hmm. Then they bring in Mark Melancon. He blows the lead. Cardinals take the lead. And then not only do they take the lead, they get like this huge lead. I think they were up by 4 or 5 going into the ninth.
Then the Braves almost came back.
Right. It's actually, they had a 4-run lead in the ninth. Cardinals bring in Carlos Martinez. This guy's coming in with a 4-run lead, and he almost blows it.
Yeah.
Want to strangle the guy. Anyway, luckily, Cardinals win the game. So thank God for that. Yeah. But that ninth inning really, really bothered me.
Right. No, and it should have.
And now that series is tied at 1, which scares me as well because I really don't want the Braves to advance.
Right. Okay, I hear you.
One last thing I want to mention about baseball. Has nothing to do with any of the series. But I'm sure you've noticed, if you've watched any baseball game in the last week, you must have seen Marlins man at least a dozen times.
Oh my God, he was at both wildcard games.
He was. And I have no problem if you have a lot of money and you want to fly to every single game and you want to sit in the front row and you want to wear your orange jersey, be my guest. If I had that kind of money, I would probably do the same thing.
I would maybe do more. I'd go to more games.
But what bugs me is, if you notice, he seems like he's always standing up. His back is always to the play. He's looking at someone behind him and having a conversation. It's as if he needs to be the center of attention. Sit down, dude. During the game, sit down and watch the game.
But what do you mean it's as if he wants to be the center of attention? He sits front row behind the plate in a bright orange jersey. Like that's his whole MO. His whole being is screaming, "Look at me, look at me." That's all it is, right?
Anyway.
But like I said, look, I think if I had his money, I would go to all the games. I just wouldn't show up wearing a bright orange jersey so everyone would look at me. I just go and enjoy the games, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
what about the American League?
Well, there's nothing bugging me about the American League.
Okay.
I mean, I want to congratulate both the Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays for making the playoffs on such a small payroll.
Yes, that's true.
I will mention this. It has nothing to do with the playoffs, but all these rumors about, the Tampa Bay Rays playing half their games in Montreal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard that Stephen Bronfman went to the wild card game. He was a guest of the owner of the Tampa Bay Rays.
And then also this week, Bronfman had a big press conference where they unveiled the site where they want to build a new stadium. And I'm very happy for the momentum of a new team here. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But this sharing with the Rays is the most half-baked idea in history.
Right. And even if, let's just say, hypothetically, everything works out beautifully and Montreal gets a team full-time.
Yeah.
And it's the Tampa team that moves to Montreal.
I
And
love
now
that
they
for
have
every
to play in the American League East with the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. Do you think that team is going to be able to compete with those two teams?
Well, they competed this year.
Well, they did, but now look who they have to play.
No, but I'm saying like it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could make the playoffs because they have, right? And they made it before, right?
But you're going to have to go through Houston or Boston or New York.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I'd rather have that problem than have no team.
Agreed.
I'd rather have the chance. You see that movie Dumb and Dumber?
No, I don't think I've seen it.
He goes to the super hot girl and he's like, he's hitting on her and she's like, I wouldn't date you if you were the last man on earth. Something like this. And he looks at her and he's like, so you're saying there's a chance?
Actually, she's saying there's no chance.
Well, depends how you look at it, I guess. But yes, you're right. The Rays, it's going to be crazy when the Rays are playing in their stadium because it's not even going to be full.
Well, I heard that now that they've advanced to this round, they sold a few extra tickets. I don't know how many.
Yeah, but they're all the interviews that I've heard from the Rays organization is that they're already like preparing for the fact that there's going to be empty seats and it's not going to look good on TV.
Well, that's not my problem.
Yeah. No, that's not my problem either. It's a bad look, Like, what does that say about baseball in Tampa when your team's in the playoffs and you can't even fill the stadium, right?
Well, I mean, there shouldn't be any professional baseball teams in Florida because the Marlins don't draw crowds either.
No.
And the Marlins actually have a nice ballpark, so that's not the reason.
No, it's not a good time for sports in Florida right now, let me tell you. The Dolphins, yikes.
If
Right?
if the Dolphins had a good team, they would actually get fans. Tampa has a good team and they're not getting fans.
That's true. The Dolphins have like a support that runs deep, right?
Yeah.
That people are going to be diehards kind of no matter what. But the Rays, I don't know. I don't think they have much of a base at all. At all.
So, you know how you made a proclamation at the beginning of this episode that we're not going to be ruled by the NFL schedule?
Yes, I did.
I have a few proclamations to make as well about this show.
Okay, let's hear it.
And if you don't like them, you can just delete this part.
Should I delete the part where you say if you don't like them, you could delete this part?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we're never doing another preview show of any kind ever again. I'm telling you right now.
I'm fully on board with that. I'm
never going to talk about something that hasn't happened. I'm only going to talk about things that have already happened in the past.
Right. Why should we predict things?
Because A, we have no clue what we're talking about, and B, no one wants to hear our predictions anyway.
But our NFL preview is actually an enjoyable episode. So Neil's listening to this now and he's saying, man, Josh just canceled me.
No, we're going to have Neil on after March Madness or after each week of games to talk about the games that happened.
Right. And looking ahead is fine. I mean, I think it's fine to look ahead because if Duke's about to play Kentucky, obviously you're going to talk about it, so.
Speaking of Duke, I'm glad you reminded me. I'm going to throw this out there. I already know your answer.
Okay.
When we're done this show, you can go look at your calendar.
Okay.
On January 30th, it's a Thursday.
It's my son's birthday.
Right. You can bring him. On January 30th, it's a Thursday. The Montreal Canadiens are playing in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, on Saturday, the Duke Blue Devils are playing in Syracuse. I am proposing a road trip.
Okay, send me the email with these dates. I have to seriously look at this.
Anyway.
because I want to do it.
So that's all. I'm done.
You're done. That's it. Okay, so
there-
speaking of Duke, before we end, did you read this morning that Zion Williamson, they measured him, and it turns out he's not 6'8" like Duke was saying last year. He's actually 6'6".
No, Duke said he was 6'7".
Ah, okay.
And they're saying he's 6'6". And you know why this is happening? Because the NBA came out with this rule like a week ago or 10 days ago where you have to measure the height and the weight of all your players accurately this year, which I don't know why they weren't doing it accurately before. Okay. And apparently when the NBA is now doing their measurements, they're measuring these players without their shoes on, which can take off an inch.
Right.
So anyway, so I think that's the whole story. But I did read that last night. I thought it was hilarious when I read it.
It is hilarious, right? Man, he's not a power forward anymore. He's a small forward all of a sudden.
It just makes his accomplishments even that much better.
Yes, this is very, very true. Very true. All right, so we thought we were going to split this into 2 episodes, but it looks like it's just going to be 1.
I mean, I have other stuff to talk about, but I can leave those for another day. Nothing else is bugging me, so, you know.
Before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
Do you have anything you want to end the show with?
Sure, has nothing to do with sports.
Okay, sure.
You probably already heard this, but Netflix is coming out, I think, in the next 6 days. A Netflix movie is coming out. It's a sequel to Breaking Bad.
Yes, it's like Pinkman, right?
I don't know what it's called.
I forget the name. The title has been released. I just forget it. But it's starring Jesse Pinkman is the main character.
Well, he's the only one that didn't die, so I mean.
Right. But I feel like I heard different reports about whether Walter White was going to be in the show, and I get if he is, it must be in flashbacks.
Right, obviously.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going to be huge, and it's probably going to be the biggest thing Netflix has ever done, right? I mean,
I'm glad that it's just one movie and not a whole series, because I don't have to, I don't want to get invested in like another series.
Right. That's a lot of time investment. 2 hours and you're done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to watch it. I mean, I think everybody in the world's going to watch it. Like, it's going to be huge. Honestly, it's going to be huge. Yeah.
So, that's all I got.
So I didn't have anything I was thinking about what I could bring to the table here, and I think it's just going to be like birthday wishes.
Okay, who had birthdays?
Well, friend of the show, Joseph De Benedictis, his birthday today. So we just want to wish Joe a happy birthday. He supported us from the beginning. He was one of our first guests way back when, right?
I actually texted him to wish him a happy birthday this morning. He's having a little shindig, and he invited me, but unfortunately I can't go.
Right. Okay, well, anyways, happy birthday, Joe.
Yes.
So let's try to get on a weekly schedule. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be NFL related, but let's try to get back on our weekly schedule. I shouldn't be traveling for work for the foreseeable future. And if I do, it's not going to be these big trips to Europe like I just did. So I'll be available.
Great.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Okay, bye.